What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick.
My name is Dave.
And this is the Deep Dive. And as you guys can see, we matched today because this week is a pretty big week around here. What are we doing?
VBS.
VBS.
Yeah.
And what is this, Dave? How many years have we been together in VBS?
I think this is actually, I was thinking it's 5. I think it's 4. I think the first year I was around, but I was taking care of Tinsley.
Yeah.
That first year.
Oh, yeah, because I think you had annual conference too. So.
I was having to leave halfway through. So, yeah. But I think for 4 years now, we've been doing 4th and 5th graders. Jeannie Jolly and a few other adults. But Jeannie has been part of that team the whole time.
The crew.
And we've got it down. We got 30 kids this year.
Yeah, I think our roster says like 35, but I don't think we've had quite all of them yet at any one time. But yeah, I mean, VBS is going here at Hickory Flat, and it's controlled chaos. But it's so much fun.
Mostly controlled.
Mostly, I'd say controlled is the bigger word there for sure.
And we had a good day today. We took the kids to do a mission project. We got another mission project later in the week. To the aquatic center tomorrow. Yeah,
for some fun, and then. But then, did you know, I think there's 240, 250 kids in this room?
Yeah.
You believe that?
I do believe it. I've been here. Yes.
I do get the joy of being one of the actors. And, sometimes you get up there and you challenge them to get a little louder. And it's like, challenging this group to get a little louder, it's deafening. It's not as just loud. It's deafening. So,
yeah, it's been a great week. And I was talking to somebody this morning. And there's tired and there's VBS tired.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it's just the morning, but it wears me out.
For sure.
But anyway, let's get into the podcast for this week.
Yeah, you guys are here for a podcast about this sermon, so let's jump in.
All right, let's do it.
Well, Dave, I do have one quick thing before we jump in to add, and I just want to say thank you to the congregation for their support of the youth mission trip that we just got back on as well. So for all of us who went on the trip, we got a back-to-back week here of pretty busy times.
Yeah, you got to be really tired because you had
I'll get there.
Youth mission trip all last week, and then
there'll be a really
also.
good nap at some point this week.
Yeah,
I feel it. But I really just. From the bottom of my heart, just want to say thank you. Between the 100 envelope challenge, raising around $5,000 for youth missions, and in under a month was just really incredible. And I can't thank you guys enough. That I know that for some of you, it might have just been shoving dollars into an envelope, but really making these trips accessible for our teens, where money isn't an issue. We do scholarship 3 to 4 almost every trip. And to help bring costs down for all of these families, especially those who have multiple kids in the youth group, it just allows for some life-changing opportunities to happen. And it's not as easy or as possible without you guys helping. So I just want to say thank you to that. And just a quick report back about the trip is we had a really great trip.
Yeah.
These kids were among some of the hardest working kids I've been around. We got to stain and sand a 700 square foot deck. So that was a lot of work and some detail work in that as well. So if your kid went, they can now paint. They did learn how to do that. So keep them busy. But also we went to like a farm where they do some rehab, some work opportunities for some people with special needs and stuff like that. And I just met the sweetest people, and they got to, what did they do there? We weeded out a couple of the greenhouses they have there as they prepare for their next session of crops. And then we tended to a potato patch area. So a lot of good work, had a lot of fun in between. Got a chance to retreat, so it was good.
I've seen the pictures, and they look like you guys had a blast. And good. I'm glad Hinton worked out.
Yep,
it's good to know. Y'all going to go back next year?
I think so. Yeah. I think we're going to give it another shot. So.
Yeah, good.
The food was good too.
Yeah,
for camp food.
Yeah.
They were good.
Great.
We appreciate it.
Well, good.
But as you know, this is a podcast kind of talking about the sermons. And Dave, you preached a sermon on our 5th week of Jeremiah.
Actually, I think this is the 6th.
Oh, was that the 6th?
We got one more this week. So yeah, we're deep into Jeremiah now. And so this week, I will say though, at least for me, it felt like a respite because this week the word from God is very encouraging. And as opposed to what's been before, which has been merciful in warning, but there's been a lot of warnings that the people were not heeding. And so it's been a little more heavy.
Yeah.
It's been a heavier kind of series. But this week, I think there's some good stuff about grace and how God transforms the human heart. And so we'll jump into that. I started in a very nerdy place by quoting St. Augustine, or St. Augustine is. Both ways are good. I will tell you that. You'll hear people that'll say Augustine or somebody will say Augustine. You can quote it, you can pronounce it either way. There's no wrong or right way.
Okay.
Other people will argue with you about it. But so I told this story from Augustine Confessions that where he talks about, and just a quick thing about Augustine without being too nerdy and have people already turning off the podcast. He is one of the more important Christian thinkers of all time, even though he's a long time ago. I mean, like 4th century BC, maybe 3rd, 4th, end of 3rd, 4th. So it's 4th or 5th, and so there, 400s, 500s, somewhere there.
Yeah.
Anyway, he and a lot of, as the Bible was coming together, it was being pretty much all the books were there, and people were agreeing about, what should be part of the canon, what shouldn't be. But that was almost so. As these books were coming together, the interpretation of Scripture and to make it into theology was an important thing. And some of those things that he wrote and taught about, it's still part of our orthodoxy today, and as far as Christian belief has been. And so, he was one of the ones who kind of carved out that. He had one, just getting into the sermon a little bit, he had one thing he said that the heart is restless until it rests with God. You ever heard that before? So that's Augustine.
Okay.
So that's clear, and that's really, he talked about the nature of grace. How it was only, it was only God who could save us, and it was 100% a gift coming to us from that. He talked about sin, which we also get into today, and the fall of man, and just the human heart and the need for the human heart to be transformed. All which was right on schedule for what we were talking about this week, and so. I began out with this quote, though, where in Confessions is kind of an autobiography, and he's telling his sort of a search for God and things that he went through. And he tells a story from his teenage years of he and a group of friends who, in the middle of the night or at night, broke into, I guess you would call it an orchard, a pear orchard, and they stole all these pears. And so then later he reflects on why did we think that was a good idea? What made us want to do that? And he goes into my family didn't need money. I wasn't hungry. He says the pears weren't that particularly good. We threw away most of them. So what made them? And he has this quote, that about, I loved my own ruin. I loved the wrong itself, which is kind of an archaic way of saying it. But I think we all understand what he means, that it's like we do things that we know are wrong, even though we know better. Human beings just do that, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of where the as we get into Jeremiah, the people of Judah were. They kept being warned. They knew what the law was, and yet they kept breaking it. And so that's kind of where we began. But I wanted to start out, why. What is something everybody knows is wrong, or what are some things that we kind of work against our best interests someplace? We do things that we know we shouldn't. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself? I'll be first since I ask a confusing question. I find myself getting into conversations that fall into gossip that I know this is toxic. This is not wrong. This is wrong. Nothing good is going to come from, stirring this up, and I can rationalize myself and saying, well, everybody just needs to vent or whatever, but I know it's toxic and I know it's wrong, and yet I do it.
Yeah.
And nothing positive's going to result with that if you get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's honestly kind of where my mind went first too, is like sometimes just being on the grapevine a little too much or whatever to try to. And I do, like, I'm kind of with you. I don't want to feel like this is a cop-out answer. I guess I could find something else. But, for me, I I sometimes play it off as like, I'm just trying to make sure I know what's happening or what's going on or whatever to try to head things off in the future. But sometimes it does come down to the gossipy side of things.
Yeah.
I think also, there's sometimes, especially in my past where like, I know like even maybe this is like a smaller way, but even in some of the ways I ate,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I knew that it wasn't healthy for me or helpful for me, but I still did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I did, and I thought about that example because it is an example. But and I'll have a couple other things in a second. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean because I know that I'm going to feel good and I'm going to be better if I eat right.
Yeah.
And exercise.
Right.
I know those things, and yet often
Sometimes I
don't.
just choose not to.
Choose not to. And so, yeah, but in our Christian life too, I think we think of stuff like worry. We're told, that God's got us not to worry, but yet we spend so much of our life worrying about things that we have no control over, thinking that we can control it.
Yeah.
And we could go down, forgiving people. We hang on to like we need to be forgiving people. I mean, that's it's part of the Lord's Prayer. We know that.
Yeah.
But yet, why do we hang on to grudges? Why do we hang on to when somebody's wronged us and we don't forgive, or we think we're holding on to some power by however our behavior might manifest itself. So I mean, I think we could probably spend an entire podcast just kind of going through
that stuff.
to the list of that. But it is a problem that is prone to all of us.
Sure.
And, it's one of the things Augustine wrote about in the fall of man, fall of humanity. He writes it back to Adam, the fall of humanity. Why did they take the apple? I mean, they could have lived in paradise, but, what is it within us that does wrong, that does harm? And
yeah, I mean, I think even with that, some people are like, if Adam or Eve didn't eat the apple, it's like, at some level, I feel like somebody eventually probably would have been like, I wonder what this is, even if it wasn't them. You know what
I mean, and it serves as an archetype for us. I don't, it is that because it is common to man.
Yeah,
it's common to man, and so in this prophecy today, this message from God that He does today, as I said, it was a little bit of respite, and in that, and I'm not going to read all of it, but in that it's God declaring a new covenant. They had an old covenant, and it wasn't working out for them. He had the 10 Commandments. He had all the other law, and they knew the right thing. They knew a lot more about what they weren't supposed to do, but yet they couldn't keep themselves. They kept sinning. And so, the scripture starts off, it's from chapter 31, but it started with verse 31. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. So, as it gets into it, though, the language, and I pointed out in the sermon, is that, this is going to be a different covenant. It's going to be a new covenant that they had to look forward to. That was going to, because the story's not over yet. I mean, they're still got years ahead of them. The temple is still going to be destroyed. They are still going to be in exile. So all this is still going to happen. But this promise of this new covenant is the hope that's coming, that they can hang on through that. And this new covenant, he says, is one that I will make with the people of Israel after that time. He says, I will put their law into hearts. I will be their God. I will forgive their wickedness. I will forgive their sins. All this time, and all these I statements that God is making, which is a little bit different in some ways than the old covenant, where it was, you shall not do this, you shall not do that, because they weren't being able to do it. But yet God is saying that He is the active person. This is God. And so that, as I pointed out, is the very picture of grace.
Yeah.
That it's not something we're doing. It is something that God is doing for us. And of course, and it was by accident too. I mean, it lined up on Communion Sunday with this scripture in this particular sermon, because we have that great line, which is just the heart of the gospel that we say in the communion service. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. This is the good news.
Yep.
While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. That is grace. That is the heart of grace. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that lines well with, I think of Romans and stuff like that, where it talks about that, that we often don't understand, like what we've earned is this sinful nature. What we've earned is death and stuff like that. But the gift of God is that eternal life. And that's just the way we kind of remember it.
Yeah. And so I'm guessing that a lot of people knew that, have at least heard that if they've been in church or in Sunday school or whatever. They've heard of grace. They've heard about, it is God movement towards us. But yet, let me ask you this. Do you feel like that there are sometimes, and I know I do it, but Christians that act like the gospel is sort of, God got me started and now it's up to me now to do it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That is... I think I've honestly fallen into that category a little bit, because there used to be a lot of teaching around like, take up the mantle, take up the cross. And it's like, those are things you're supposed to do, but you kind of take it as like this battle cry instead of like this, I'm with you in that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I will do this in my own power. I've been given the strength, but really all through the Bible, all through at least my journey in faith, I've come to realize that God is always there with me, and it's always goes better when I lean into Him to help me make decisions, or even coming up with lessons and stuff for youth group. You know what I mean? Like lean into God's presence and trust.
I think it's grace versus striving. It's how the faith and works thing, and it takes both, but it's knowing where the strength comes from. Yeah. When we mistake ourselves to think that is something that we're doing is when we get off, and I think that's something that we all go through. I know I do at times. We trust in God, but we like to cover our bets, and so we do that with human effort or whatever. And maybe
I think quite honestly, we are a little bit of a control freaks. We like to have control of our situations and our areas, and I think it feels uncomfortable to not have that control. So I think that's where sometimes that will happen.
Yeah. So, he talks about that he's going to write this on the human heart. This new covenant is going to be written on the human heart. So it's not about knowledge anymore, and not knowing the right things, but it's something that's going to be this inner transformation that's come inside. And so looking back on your life, what do you think has changed you the most? Was it information? Was it experiences? Was it suffering? Was it relationships? Or what are the things that is God? Because I guess my point is, God brings about this transformation, but He does it in a lot of ways in individual lives. But some people, it's through their study and their information, and they have these aha moments. But other people, it's experiences they've had, that they've taken this knowledge that was sort of abstract, and suddenly it's become very real for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And pardon me, as you were listening, I was like, oh yeah, that one. Oh, yep, that one too. Like, I would say yes. Like all of it flows into and through it, because, the challenge of being somebody who studies a lot would be, hey, now get out there and do it, because that's what it also says in the Bible. But for those of us that are just like, and I would say I'm more of like, I learn more doing things, and even if I fail, like I learn more by putting my hands on something and practicing and trying it. But I have learned to recognize the need to step back, and like sometimes I need more knowledge to be able to do things more effectively. Do you know what I mean? So I think it all flows actually together, and it's all part of the same Christian journey and path that we're on, is that we have to have a lot of these different experiences to really deepen our faith and our roots and stuff like that.
The problem with experiences is sometimes people will think, well, I had this experience and it profoundly changed me, so everyone should have this exact same experience. But I will say, as a general rule, where I've seen, I feel like heart transformation, because a lot of people, anybody can hear a good sermon, or, we have a guest speaker that comes in and, really gets somebody fired up. And you're like, well, I'm changing my life. I came to the altar. But a week or two later, you
fall back in the same
kind of fall. But people on mission trips, and I've watched it with kids and I've watched it with adults, where there's something about going on those that really connect with people, because I think it's it's being part of a team, it's working with your hands, it's seeing Jesus in other people. It's having, usually you're out of your comfort zone, so you're really having to rely on God maybe more or something. But what you had experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually funny, because the thing I challenged the kids on the last night is because the whole theme was kind of based on being rooted in Christ, and the main thing I looked at them and challenged them. I said, listen, it's really easy to grow deep roots when you're in the greenhouse, which I consider like the mission trips, like that greenhouse time where everything's prepped, ready for you to grow, to focus on God, and to really dive deep. And those are meaningful times and special times, because all the stuff you've learned throughout the year, it gives you an opportunity to put a lot of that into practice. But the challenge I put them is how do you not lose the ability to grow when you go back home, outside of the greenhouse, essentially. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it takes some of those recharge moments a little bit, a finding place to retreat and get away from your norm, to really kind of recenter, refocus, and then go back in with that renewed focus.
It is.
Like all the things are important.
Yeah. But I really do think that is sort of the role of the church, is to create those environments where those things can happen, whether it's going on a mission trip or being in a study group somewhere, or
a retreat,
or just having a community experience where people can have deep relationships with other people they can share life with. Because part of it also is what we learn through going through difficult times and struggles. And but to have people that will walk through us with that and help us take those steps through the difficult times, I think is also life transforming. People who have been, hurt and come to the church and loved on in such a way that has transformed them. I've seen that time and time again too.
For sure.
They come as broken people, and then they get healed, and then are able to jump into ministry and thrive in that. So, yeah, it's all great. So, yeah, let me see if I got anything else on here. I think we've covered everything pretty much from Sunday.
Yeah.
We're tired, so we'll make this one a couple of minutes shorter. I'm looking at the time over there. We're about the same. We always are. But I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed this series. We've got one more as we close up, and then I'll talk about next week about what we're doing for the rest of the summer, which is going to be over before we know it, because we're just to the end of July.
Yeah.
But I've got, this has been kind of a heavy series, so I've got something I think everybody's going to have fun with for the summer.
Great.
So we'll talk about that next week. But anyway, I hope everybody will either tune in to our service online if you're out of town or unable to be here, or be here in person, because besides finishing Jeremiah, we are going to be celebrating VBS, and kids are going to be singing, and I think we're going to have a special video covering the highlights of the week. And
yeah, so especially if for some reason you weren't able to be a part of what's happened. It's always a special service, because you get to see the kids kind of sing, so you get a little feel for what they did, but also it's kind of retelling the story of all the stuff that you guys have continued to give to. I mean, you guys have donated snacks, stuff, all this to help make these weeks possible. And it'll be a great service to report back on a lot of what's happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that's gone into this week.
Yes.
And it shows.
Kudos to Nicole, Connie, the children's ministry team, the 90 plus volunteers that are here helping.
Yeah.
For 240 kids.
The sets are great this year.
Yeah.
We have a snow machine.
We do have a snow machine.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's up on a tower, so it really looks like, it kind of looks like it's snowing. It looks like it's snowing in a cartoon or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Snow doesn't really fall in some of the big chunks. But it will get down to just having the fairy stuff.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool.
Good times. So 3 more days, and that'll be quickly done. And then we'll be looking ahead to the school year. So the ministry keeps coming, and we're excited about that. But for now, we're just thankful you guys have been here joining us for this podcast, and we hope that you picked up something that was meaningful for you, something that will stick with you, maybe something that was reiterated from Sunday that was like, oh yeah, I needed to capture that. And if you'd like to continue this conversation about it, drop it below in the Facebook and the YouTube and the chat sections or the comment sections. And Dave, anything here at the end?
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.
All right. God bless everybody.